question. It's absolutely true. Between IBM and Sun and Cisco and all the people that are putting money into doing something, it's totally uncoordinated. It's run by marketing people that want to gain some public relations benefit. I just was over in the press room, and there was a Microsoft person and a Hewlett-Packard person, and the Microsoft person had the, how would we say, audacity to say, we are contributing billions of dollars to the developing world. And then there's the comma, and then there's a little money. Well, they're not developing billions, they're going to give some software licenses. So I thought, well, you know, this is in the wrong hands. And so I think if we took Colin's framework, the stack, the knowledge that's embedded in solid-state physics at the very bottom, and then the CAD systems for chip design, and the CAD systems for board design, and the system design, and we move up the stack and find the places that can take advantage of what exists today and build on it, we could quite, with all of the companies together, make a change in the application of the technologies we have inside to the emerging groups that will build the businesses of the future. And we have these formal structures in the companies that have internships and that bring in people to work in a lab somewhere, and IBM Zurich is a wonderful example where kids from around the world will come to IBM Zurich labs and work with very serious researchers in all of these stack areas, but where a kid from Zaire who would never have access to the instrumentation and devices that are at the IBM Zurich lab suddenly for a summer can use these things. Now, the sad part is the kid returns to where they came from and there's nothing comparable, so their knowledge about the highest end of device design can't be put to any application. But with the network, I think we could make a change, because when you come to the IBM internship program in Zurich and then return to whatever country you're from, the only difference between the screen in front of you in Rushlakan and the screen in front of you in Zaire is you're not at the same cafeteria, you know. So we could do this and make it a strong, so I think we're going to talk about this afterwards. It's been a major problem over all of these meetings about what do you get the companies to do. They'll all say something good, but they don't do anything, or and only by following Colin's stack are we going to start inserting the most advanced knowledge into the enabling of the most advanced technology to be used in places that simply can't make the local capital investment to build again what exists in these centers of the most advanced companies. So that's a project, and I think if we analyze it using your framework, we could make progress, because only when you have, it's just the same rule you always use when you deal with political people. All they want to hear from you, they don't want to hear sentiment, they want to hear, what do you want? And if you can't say that, if you say, we want public-private partnerships, they say, oh, thank goodness, this person does not know what they want. They won't ask me for money, they want to do something warm, but they don't know what they want. With your framework, we could take at each level, what is it that we want in this university, in this country, access to this or that specifically, and then we have a way to make clear what IFIPS and what all the different entities at play could bring to bear. So I was inspired by your paper on this. So what I was going to talk about is a little bit different, but it's not, what I was going to talk about is less important than what you just heard. Let me pull my cables. Boy, this being close to the microphone thing is very weird. All right, there we go. All right, so this is what I was going to talk about. I'll make it slightly larger. In the summary, in the précis, in the syllabus, I discuss two important aspects of information technology. At the bottom, I talk about control. Now that's not yet in these words here, because these discuss how we create new intellectual technology on top of what we do. But at the bottom, in the précis, and in the paper that I will provide Tom to include in the book for Kluwer when this all goes out, in my précis I say, creating societies based on the technologies of information, we've brought something new into the equation. We've brought identity issues. By that I mean, every chip in every one of these computers, every packet on the network, every piece of software, every part of data is identified to some degree. For any security system, you need to be able to say, what is this file or program or processor or storage unit, or how do I know who has rights to maintain it, change it, swap it in, swap it out? All of the structures that allow operating systems and computers to be built are structured on identity. Well, that's fine for the computer crowd until today we deploy billions of these devices, and the other parts of society who are very concerned with identity, namely the police, the tax authorities, the health authorities at the bottom, that's all they deal with. Who is Colin? Where does he live? Is that his car parked illegally in front of PAL Expo? Is that his airplane ticket? Did he deliver this paper to that set of people? Did he have a conversation that was on the telephone at this time? All of those are the kinds of questions the police want to be able to answer. They're not concerned with academic groups, but when they turn their attention to the transfer of knowledge to people who then blow up things, they're very interested in knowing who talks to whom, when, in what study, at what time. And the same technologies that we use to benign ends are used by the other parts of society for their purposes. Police have their job to do, which is to protect us, which means they want to know everything about us, otherwise they can't protect us. The same for the health authorities, and the tax authorities want to know everything about us, because if they don't know everything about us, they can't tax us. And so they're going to know it. This comes from the French. It is all Carnot, and the idea that we will have an abstract view from the point of view of the state of every individual and every piece of property, and we will assign a value and we'll extract money. So when I start with my new intellectual technologies discussion, I try to point out that in the past we could see, and Colin referred to this, introducing a piece of technology, paper, suddenly allows memory, it allows science. Without that, who would trust someone, Tycho Brahe, or someone making an astronomical measurement, who would trust them without paper to recall the settings on the telescope of measurements they made 3 years ago? People can't remember how much their expense report was for a taxi ride 3 days ago. So you wouldn't have science without pieces of paper, a beginning of permanent memory. The same thing in photography, the same thing with film. We simply enable memory for dynamically occurring events. For scientific instrumentation, without storage of the data, there is no science. CERN could have any number of events occur. The Higgs boson could be buried somewhere, and if the data is not maintained, it might as well never have occurred. So we're building a system on top of ITC that in fact enables new kinds of intellectual technology. These are pieces of intellectual technology. The catalog of our speeches at this conference is a form of technology to allow people to find Colin's paper. Without an index on the net from Kluwer, our publisher, no one will know where this paper is. So we're part of a conversation that's made possible only by these kinds of intellectual technology for permanent memory, in this case, memory of links. You can see today with the cost of disk decreasing at such a rate, when a child can have more storage in their PC than all of the IBM mainframes running some large company 10 years ago had, we've altered something here. The kids are doing something different. They're taking existing intellectual creation, music, film, photographs, they're combining them in new ways, they're changing the overall presentation of them. They're doing what the scientific community does, which is to build knowledge upon independent and separate investigators' data, and from that learn something that no individual investigator would see. And since we're creating new sensor data, we're learning the temperature of a particular part of a room or the electrical demand of a particular building, we're adding with the network now speaking to not millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of small sensors. We're beginning to create some new intellectual technology groundwork. In the last 10 years, I used the British example in London after the two boys kidnapped that small child and killed the child. The British put cameras everywhere. So if you're in London, your picture is taken on a given day hundreds of times, not 10 times, hundreds of times. Cameras at every intersection, measurements made of the people passing. What does that mean? Radio frequency identity tags. Your identity inside a cell phone or in your Benetton sweater, your identity uniquely linked into databases suddenly weaves together an intellectual framework for new creation that we've not had before. None of us understand this very well. And I think that we're building with this framework the stepping stones, the ladders they show the people, the new generations will build upon. So if we're able to rearrange existing data, an example are kids that take movies and recut the movie, rearranging with music, reproduce popular songs, or merge the Beatles with Bjork. Those sorts of alterations that are going on today are new forms of creation, and we're enabling this. So the people that will take advantage of it, I think, are people now at the fringes, not in the central cities. You don't have to go to New York or to Amsterdam to be part now of a creative Paris, to be part of a creative community. You can remain in Senegal, or you can have an interaction in a way that you could not before. So the change in access to this, I tend to view in a positive way, and then only later do I think, so what would the police think about knowing how everything is interrelated? So I'm finding I have to think about everything I know. I have to keep viewing it from different perspectives to begin to understand some of the long-term impact. I'll skip over this. Colin made a very brief mention that in this volume leads to cheap devices which lead to adoption. Unfortunately, such a density of technology is embedded in some of these devices that there can't be a participation in the development of it outside a few narrow centers with a lot of money to invest. That open source software might be a way around this. I think you used the word might. So I think that's true. I think that we're developing, we're giving people freedom to create new things by opening the windows into the core gears and cogs of the machine inside. We're stripping away the mystery by allowing people to see what's inside. This issue of identity is something that affects it's the interface between ICT and society. And so we're watching each of the governments just 30 meters from us in the plenary session talk about I, the president of this country, or I, the minister of the interior, am bringing to my country the use of these technologies. And every one of them at this moment is studying and adopting mechanisms to identify all citizens, all things in the borders of their country, and beyond that, examine all of the links among people in their country and people outside. That's this security push. After September 11th, unfortunately, in the United States, our government, at least the national government, has been, how would I say, managed or pushed in directions by people who believe it is possible, by knowing everything about you, to control for terrorism. Well, that's of course fundamentally incorrect, but nonetheless, the pressure to utilize ICTs to bring about perfect security are enormous. There's a religious belief among the United States national government people that you can use these technologies of security or of identity to bring about security. We in the information technology world have to disabuse the powers and authority from the belief that perfect knowledge brings perfect security, and instead reflect what we know is the truth, that the structures we build are fragile, the structures we build are easily destroyed, sometimes by themselves when the power goes out in London or New York or Malaysia or Italy, as happened in the past few months. We're building structures that the society as a whole relies on, which at the bottom are fragile. So, with my, I have 5 minutes left, I thought I had 2. All right, so in a longer presentation, which I will put into my paper, which
I have the video connected.
which I will submit soon to the proceedings. I accumulate a variety of, I have created 4 different pillars. They're a bit like Colin's stacks of components, but not as well organized. I picked, well, let me look at what Colin said. The components of what we've built, just the ICT industries and ICT researchers and ICT creators, in some sense, we're all in this together. We're allowing at the moment only the secondary diffusion of this very powerful stuff because it costs a lot of money to make it. But if we do what Colin says and separate things and put them out into the hands of those who are speaking in the plenary hall next to us, and make them realize that at the bottom in the stack, it's not necessary for them to try to invent or change things, it's just necessary to have the conversation go forward. But at the top, they must understand the purpose of its use, the purpose in changing education and changing business. If we're successful in that, then I think the engineering of society, a dangerous phrase, the engineering of capabilities which allow a society to decide for itself what direction it goes, we can sharpen the debates. Like we can sharpen when we point out the way that identity technology is used in one country for control, in another country for empowerment. If we begin to characterize that clearly, we can shape the directions these very powerful organizations, the governments, will take in using what we build. So, I'll skip over this, we'll just go back to, so what I've been trying to understand in my form of Colin's stack, not the technology stack, but the society stack, I've been trying to figure out where are the areas that are most important, that are shifting the structure of society. And these factual components, the lengthening lifespan, the aging of national population, the shifting of the money from investments today to support those of us that are becoming older tomorrow, this is some area that we in the ICT community have not particularly paid attention to. At this conference, we've mentioned one example of this, which is the AIDS pandemic that's killing people. How could we use what we do to change human behavior? The other topic is the change in this new world, which is not 20 years from now, where a child, a girl born today, by the end of this decade could come to believe, could fully in her mind believe that she will live to the age of 130 or 140 or 150 years in the rich countries. This is a shift which has not really captured any of our attention in how we portray this in promulgating information and communication technologies across the world. How do we show the disparities between those that will die, as in some countries, average lifespan falling to 35 years for the entire population, contrasted with those of us in France and the older countries where the lifespan's extending to 100 to 110 to 120. So if some places have a decrease in lifespan by a factor of 2 and others have an increase in lifespan by a factor of 2, we're creating an incredible tension in global societies that we must apply our technologies to bring to to higher awareness in all of the governmental and multi-governmental power structures. We look at the other parts we know. We don't have power, the water's no, 2 billion people have dirty water. Applying what we do there is what we've been talking about for 2 days in this conference. At the bottom, as we look through the specific components of what we're doing, these areas, vanishing anonymity, joining all data about where you are with images of you and and knowledge about with whom you are connected, this terrain we can do something about right now. We have to make clear across all of the industrial groups and the academic research groups that this terrain is a terrain that we in some sense control and can make clearly in all of our research a higher, raise its importance in our discussions. Discussing technology is fine, but its implications for who we are as human beings is a deeper issue. And the last thing in this, although I don't know if I have this in the slides, well, that's about the lifespan. The one area I am most interested in, well, it doesn't come here. I'm most interested in the moment is the area of the merger of ICT technology, the information manipulating technology, with the biological technology that allows us to take the mechanisms of the cell, change those mechanisms for repair of information, that is, repair the DNA information. Aging occurs because of degradation, transcription error in the protein synthesis elements in our body. What we build in the powerful knowledge and symbol manipulating machines is today being applied in design of changing the mechanisms of living cells. That juncture in engineering the knowledge society is the most dangerous, most interesting, most powerful, and most problematic area, and that's where we should focus our next session's attention when we put together the program for the rejoining of all of us in this very interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your very, very interesting presentation. Unfortunately, we have to manage with time also. We could continue for a long time, but clearly there are certainly some questions. We can take time for some questions.
I'll ask a question.
Yes, please.
I'm ignorant of this community, so I didn't know who this gentleman was, and I know I should probably apologize or something, but I'll just say I'm ignorant. And in the morning, it came up in 5 minutes. I was astounded by his level of knowledge of the actual problems of Africa, which is a place that I do know, and this is where I've been working for the past 10 years. So what I'd like to know is, how did you know all that stuff? And do you have anything you could say concretely about the connectivity programs that you would like to see implemented in the African context?
I suppose the first answer about how do I know any of this stuff is an engineering answer. Why do we build anything? Because what we thought would work didn't, and it broke and it failed. So I am the representative of many, many failures. That's how I know. That's how I know. And you know, in our momentary discussion, there's a very important talk that was made by James Wolfenson, the head of the World Bank. He got up in front of the bankers in 1997 in Hong Kong in the big, turn toward you because you're recording here. He made a speech in front of the bankers. Imagine, it's like this, except the room is filled. It's 2,000, 3,000 bankers, all every year in the same room to talk about how are we making money or what are we doing. From the podium, he said, let me discuss the one element of what we do that no one talks about, and that is corruption. All the bankers turned white. I mean, they sat back. Nobody talks about corruption. So he said, this is the single greatest tax on the poor countries. Every time someone bribes a customs official or does a special deal with the telephone company, they're stealing money from the young girl who is starving, not in school. That's who they're attacking. So, this set the banking community on their ear. Well, the engineering community. When you come down to that very first discussion about taking Collins' grid framework and applying it in every country so that IBM and Sun and Hewlett-Packard and Siemens, Cisco, all those that are building the infrastructure on the ground, all of them in their day-to-day lives know who is corrupt. They know which official in which ministry is going to try to steal money or sidetrack an event. Every time I hear the Minister of Education in a country say, we're going to link the schools, and then they are friends with the Minister of Telecommunications, who used to be the president of the phone company, and they just shift back and forth, and they're going to extract money instead of doing what they should do, which make, as the single highest order event in a national development plan, make bandwidth to schools free. Do that. I mean, none of us, if every kid in Africa had an 8 to 10 megabit sustained DSL feed, this would be visible, that's sustained streaming video, we would suddenly have a really different world. It would be very dangerous for a lot of governments. So let's go do that. And so the goal, and what's interesting is it can be done. In this very room, 5 weeks ago at the ITU conference, they demonstrated a new set of DSL chips that are 80 megabits. And the guy in Japan, Masayoshi Son, the Yahoo BB guy, demonstrated he has 6 million Japanese homes using existing copper telephone wire with 8 megabit sustained IP traffic going to the home. He'll be bankrupt before he begins to recover all his money. We don't know, it's a race. But he has, in 9 months, built the world's largest voice over IP network. 6 million people can talk and have a zero-cost phone call to anywhere in the world. I love this. So voice should be free, bandwidth to schools should be free, and it can be done today. It wouldn't alter the revenue streams for any of these ministries particularly. So anyway, I get worked up about this because you've been in 10 years in Africa struggling to get some classrooms, some researchers, some scientists linked to the world of the National Library of Medicine and the journals and all the resources that many of the people in this room represent. And the amount of money that's been wasted doing this is just awful. So we have to become one of the nice things. Now, since I'm a mere vendor, I don't have to be polite. The salespeople don't like me going to a country and saying, you are a corrupt minister of telecommunications, because we sell to the telecommunications industry. So, but it's true very often. And so you need to be able, and I think now we're hearing from the United Nations crowd, and the agenda for this meeting was very well put together, that they are happy to begin to take this role. They have a problem because their constituents are the national governments, so they can't say this government is an absolute hellhole, but they can in the statistical reports begin to make the evidence appear. So I suppose the last thing that I'd say on this topic is we all at a local level know a lot. If we can allow that knowledge to be visible globally, some of the knowledge is who's corrupt, but some of the knowledge is in which block of which city are the children dying at a rate 3 times that of a block 1 kilometer away. And the simple example is in Washington, D.C., a rather thoroughly corrupt city in the world, you can map in the map of where is infant mortality block by block. In the black areas on 16th Street, kids die, infant mortality is almost twice that, 1.7 or so, that in an area just across in northwest Washington where the kids are rich. So when you see that, it's just scholarly reporting. It's just quiet framework reporting about what exists. Then politics emerges, which you must have emerged, because without that, there's not a movement for change. So.
Thank you very much. We have to move to the next session, so I have to thank you very much for your presentation again.
YMCA, and he's kind of confronting the fact that there are problems, in this case terrorism, and then from then on out it's pretty bleak. A gentleman in Kenya is discovering that cables are being misused, and the gentleman in Ghana in the third part of the film is essentially saying, let me tell you how things really are. And the 2 donors who are sitting, having a beer reading the newspaper, are seeing what's happened to some of the equipment. And it's not a very radical view of what's happening in Africa. It's a realistic view. And what I want to emphasize is that these people, well, as we would say in Louisiana, they don't have to lose. They got to lose.
Thank you. Who has question or remarks? Can you come here?
Can you hear me? My name is Rafat Hadwan. I am from Africa, from Egypt, on the northern tip of Africa. As a matter of fact, ICT is constituting a major opportunity for us in Africa. We believe in this and we trust this. Why? Because it relies on intellectual capital. It does not rely on the basics, which we used to produce for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it didn't make a change. For the first time, we believe that there is a forum which can constitute an opportunity. That's why we are running after it. I know it's risky to run without thinking. That's why we believe that coming to such an event would help us really to make a development strategy focused on the ICT, because most of the people are speaking about E-strategy. The issue is not the E. The issue is poverty, it's education, it's health, it's food, it's everything. The E is a sort of accelerator which will help us. Let me give you an indication about education, for example. In Egypt, we have almost 30% of our population enrolled in schools. We are speaking about 20 million out of 70 million. People under the age of 20 total to 51% of our population. So education is a continuous problem which cannot be solved by standard procedures. We have to come up with something new. And the thing is, it's here. It's information technology in different forms, not in the internet. In the radio, in the TV, and in the net. The nets add interactivity to the process. That's why we believe. In Africa, we believe, yes, we cannot wait until we learn how to fish. But we cannot eat the fish all the time. So we believe in half of the fish and half of how to fish. That's how we think about it. That's how we believe in it. That's how we are dedicated to make it. The money which is coming from all over the world goes everywhere. It goes under the ground, it goes over the ground, but it never goes to the mind of the people. The thing which is going to make a difference is when we have this money going to the mind of the people, creating an opportunity and facing real challenges, which is development using the cheapest and most expensive technology, the ICT technology. As a believer, I believe, from sociologists, we have learned a lot. We have learned that technology might be a bridge to create new communities which people have the right to dream about a better future. Thank you.
More questions? I believe that after this very impressive statement, I cannot close better this session than to thank you for this statement. We know ICT can be a very important catalyst of development, and we have tried with this organization of the forum to bring our small contribution. The next step will be the publication of the proceedings of these 2 days. The editor is here with us, Tom Van Der, and you can order this book. I believe there should be some sheets to order the book at the end of this room. I thank you very much to be here with us until this moment. I thank very much the speaker of today and all the people who interact with the speaker during this morning. See you another time, where I don't know, but the intention of the organizer of this forum is to continue the work, and something should happen also in the next future. Thank you very much.
No.
These are our collaborators. Don't trip over that, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The date, please. It's supposed to be a signature and a name.
Your name is already there.
Oh, okay, I see it. I figured with a room of engineers, somebody would solve our sound problem, and they did.
They did. It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
It was great to have that minister come. Was he a minister or?
I think
we probably got it on film.
We should do an interview on that.
Yeah. But it was like almost like a setup. Like he came in and just like
he said, "I know the problem, but we still got to do it."
No, yeah, I mean, no. He said exactly the kind of thing that people say in order to create this problem. There couldn't be a better example of someone who's part of the problem and not part of the solution. Now, I don't say Africa. I mean, Egypt it's okay, you know. But I mean, that was if it had been a Kenyan minister who said that, I would say, brilliant. You know, he's the problem. Let's talk to Greg.
Okay. And report from I went. It was an odyssey to get all these gentlemen do for the tech here. It was just like an odyssey.
Nice job. I just wanted to say.
No, I'm just going over to eat. Okay. I'm trying to. Okay, as long as everything's in the bag.
I also saw your presentation before, but there was too much detail. Here your message was very strong.
sense of your research. That's terrific.
The guy, what did you think about the Egyptian guy that came up afterwards? It was like, it was just perfect. It was like, he's one of the guys that's
No, it's like, did you listen to this?
No, yeah. It was almost like I needed to come up there as a part of the humor of the film.
We got him from Central Casting. Just called up.
But, and just for fun, I almost said in the middle, is there a question? Is there a question here?
That was the rebuttal.
No, he was that was quite a, I mean, that's like this whole event is somewhat like that, you know. It's like a speaker's corner in a sense.
Yeah.
Remember, is it okay to film?
Oh, sir, is it fine? Unless you're going to talk about some serious questions here.
We can stop it, maybe we do.
Yeah, you just tell me. He's okay about stopping it. If you go into sensitive issues.
We're like, what is this, like guerrilla filming?
Well, you know why? Because it's the sound. I got to get him very
So are you a
close.
film student or a IT
You would
guy?
think.
No, he's a former Hollywood actor and screenwriter.
Not very good at it, or else I'd still be doing
See, I
it.
used to teach at the Annenberg School, so we had a lot of film buffs there.
Well, yeah, USC, you're one of the best
Yeah,
film
exactly.
schools in the country, along with UCLA and NYU.
We still have Steven Soderbergh.
We have Steven Soderbergh. That's our claim to fame.
That's our one claim to fame.
Some of the big guys that recently came out of there is the guy who did Boys in the Hood. I forget his name.
Really?
Yeah, he came out of USC. John. Oh, I can forget his name. But I went to UCLA. I got my degree in economics from UCLA, and I did theater arts there while I was there. Kind of a strange mix, but it made sense to a young college student.
So, but what he's doing is a documentary on the summit process.
Okay.
And we started filming during the second PrepCom. Actually before that, but the second PrepCom with Carthage.
Ah,
How you doing? Kamel and Benjamin may be coming. If you see Kamel or...
Okay, I met the guys from WSIS,
Okay.
and they're very interested in coming, so I said one of them could come, but I needed to talk to you to see whether there's a few.
The two guys that were the two guys that were hanging out with...
They're on the WSIS stand in ICT 4D.
It's got to be there. It's got to be there.
If you have a moment this afternoon, maybe
want
we
me
could
to
go to that stand and talk to them. Because they're interested, WSIS want to do something at Tunis. We talked briefly, and they could, for example, do past, present, and future of communication and science in the information society, which would be interesting. And also they've got the gender people there, so they could also have the women in science, past, present, and future information society. So I think they could be interesting. Potentially being to WSIS, you know.
We talked to them. We were the ones that gave them their passes to the plenary.
But they didn't know you, they said.
It may be another. It may be some
maybe
other
they have a
ones.
lot
Because
of
they're actually the guys we met are going to go to LIP.
When was it today?
2 days ago, we got them a
They
pass.
said they didn't know you.
Okay. Memory is short. They don't mind.
Bad investment on that.
No, I just got his card. I mean, I gave one of the guys your card.
What's one of them got?
A guy named Franklin?
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Let's have a look. Stephen Hansen.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
And Lincoln.
I make such a big impression.
Short memory.
No, not him. But Stephen Hansen, yes.
Yeah.
Hansen and see one of them knows Bill Gates. That's how we can.
Oh, no.
What do you think? It'd be good to get them in.
Yeah, it's great.
Potentially,
Great
in terms
idea.
of resources and everything.
So tell them definitely come to dinner. Yeah.
Well, they wanted to bring 3 people. Is that too many?
3 people.
I said
I
to them,
think
you know,
it's
2 max.
yeah. I think it's too many because we got to limit.
2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah.
Where exactly are we meeting? Are we meeting at the hotel now, or are we meeting at the restaurant?
If they can get there before 5:30, meet at the hotel. That's that Strasbourg hotel. But otherwise, they can come to the restaurant. This Lister, do you have the information on the restaurant? Or I can write it down. Les Certitudes.
Les Certitudes.
On Rue Rossi.
So what time were you planning on meeting? 4? At
No.
5?
Yeah, we're going to meet there at the hotel at 5, but because we didn't tell people about the restaurant, we're just going to walk over there.
Okay, so
It's the same place we were, you know.
Let's institute at 5:30.
Yeah.
And our train is 7:30.
Okay, it's great.
So we won't be able to stay to eat, I don't think.
Okay, but at least for the meeting. Yeah, for the meeting. It's good. So I was talking about the thing with the Americans, you know, just that there was very, very few Americans, and then I'm not into sustainable development directly. That's not really where my area is. But I was given a talk because it's about science and knowledge production in the third world, so that was marginally related. And so then when I witnessed this event and I saw the very few Americans there, and I'm thinking, well, I was already reading the stuff about the WSIS and Tunis and Geneva. I knew we couldn't do anything for, well, as can be seen, people have done stuff for Geneva, but they started planning after I did. Okay, but of course there's CERN, and they've got a lot of resources. So I just thought I need to have 3 years to think about this thing. So when I got the basic partners starting to get involved, then the question was what would be the overall kind of subject, and it seemed, well, you couldn't. It would be a really bad idea to have a world summit on the information society. Many of the technologies for which were developed in the U.S. and have no Americans there, and it's in a Muslim country, and I thought there's a potential for a real negative symbolic problem there. Okay. So that whatever else happens, I want to have a nice satellite summit with a decent but not unreasonably high proportion of Americans, right? Because you wouldn't want to go the other way either. That's not dominated and controlled by Americans for obvious reasons, but that is just shown in a cooperative spirit of engagement with the other countries, and also paying for the developing country participation. So the money that would come from NSF is essentially going to pay for the kind of core part of the event, but
they usually don't support conferences, though, do they? I mean, what are you? Well, anyway, how are you positioning it so it's fundable by NSF? I mean, that's going to be. Or is that not a problem, given the program manager?
The answer is I really don't know, because I wasn't aware that they didn't support conferences. So I just started going there and talking to a lot of them, and they didn't think it was a problem.
Right.
So I don't
raise it.
So if that becomes a problem later, I guess I'll feel like an idiot because they can say, well, why didn't you know?
Well, maybe they selectively say that. Maybe that's just an excuse. But
this is if they send this proposal out for review, I mean that wouldn't be a good thing. It's not really a reviewable affair. It's something that 3 or 4 different program officers would make contributions.
So what essentially, so you're going to have a side event, a satellite event associated with the Tunis conference, and it's focused on the 4S work, or is it very much broader than that?
No, it's very much broader than that, but I know this is not a great working title, so I'll say it's a theme, but this is what we've been calling it, past, present, and future of science and engineering in the information society. I mean, it's just a long mouthful, but the theme is basically past, present, and future. The past represents a discussion of how we got where we are, but looking in a longer framework than just the internet. Going back to other telecommunications technologies and different. Maybe not before the horse. Maybe that's too far back. But going at least back into the 19th century, and having some good scholarly presentations that discuss that. But the present is going to be the use of ICTs for communication and collaboration, and that would cover the high-end supercomputing applications and informatics and collaboratories that might be remote collaborations of various sorts. And then the future, and the gimmick is the future is the developing world, not even more high-end visionary. Not that there won't be that stuff, but as I say, the gimmick is that the future is the inclusion of the developing world. Because it is a summit that focuses on the digital divide. We have to be concerned with digital divide issues. And the way that I'm drawing the diagram is that it's like a Venn diagram where the three circles are science and technology is one of them, ICTs are the other, and development is the third. I've said this so many times now, you don't get any more feedback.
Well, you get the best rendition.
That's what we do. Take 5,002.
Yes.
Makeup.
Oh, you just hit the right note there. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna by the end of it, I'm gonna be like one of these presidential guys, sitting in the back seat just giving the speech and not thinking about it, But the different types of participation, I think, are really important because there's some really bogus nonsense here, and I don't speak of any particular speaker, but I want to see some scholars there. That's why I sent the email to you. Before we get running too far, I want to make sure that there are some sophisticated presentations by the best people on what we know about the internet. That's key. But we want to make sure that if not all, at least majority of sessions have something from the developing areas. Just majority. And the kinds of participants would be scholars, innovators, which apparently is a term that takes clarification because now already people have misunderstood it. And
innovators?
Innovators. Yeah, people think
What's
the misunderstanding seems to be people think it means
conspiracy.
Well, cutting edge, monopoly. Bill Gates, basically.
Okay,
but without giving Bill Gates the credit, or people like him, the credit of the history of internet and desktop and network computing, so just looking at the present, literally the most recent, and not who he is and how he became what he is, and what influence he had on what we are now. Which it's sort of like that environment in the 60s and 70s, where policy. Research and private, the industry came together and put all their differences aside, and they created this internet.
Yeah, so
and I think it's important to have people like that who were there.
Sessions on government policy, private innovation, and I'm not a Microsoft hater myself.
Or supporter. Neutral.
Well,
you use Windows.
Microsoft has a huge role,
and they have a better product.
They have a huge role in the information society, and that's what the summit's about. So it's not a bash Microsoft opportunity. This is not how we want to design it. And I don't know, the guy from Sun came over to me today and started talking like he was real interested. So I thought the third category, and I'm lumping the two together because I don't want people to just start inviting only these guys and nobody else. I call it 2 p.m. because it's both policymakers and program managers. So I call it 2 p.m. to make sure that they don't, get like extra slices of the invitations, because the policymakers and program managers have to be there. The Third World Academy of Sciences always has and they're one of the key. I kind of think their name should be top of the masthead, just for the sake of symbolism. But they don't give money, so it's in a third world place. Third World Academy of Sciences is an organization with probably the best linkages to the science and technology community in the third world. So I'm thinking that the Third World Academy can have a good role. And what they always do is they like ministerial panels. The last time they invited, sorry?
Oh yeah, definitely high level people.
And the last time they had a meeting, they invited 11 ministers of science and technology. That's too many. But I could see a couple of ministers of science and technology, maybe with, a telecommunications guy and, a finance guy, so that it could be a slightly broader representation. Because these folks do really give canned speeches, and I don't want it to be overly weighted towards that, but certainly they should be there. And program managers, because I think it's interesting to have the people that really fund and run the programs like IDRC or Millennium Science Initiative or those kind of things.
Yeah, it's amazing how much they're shaping agendas. I mean, if Dutton decides to fund a particular stream of work, it's absolutely, people start chasing them. Well, we can, I mean, I can help in a couple of ways. I obviously can help you identify some key academics that would be able to contribute to a program if you wish me to do so. Some of our visiting fellows have done really interesting work in developing nations, like Jo Taki. I don't know if you've run across her. She's got this great research on internet radio. It's the Internet Radio Project, where she's working with disadvantaged rural youth and basically getting them excited about producing radio, not just listening to radio and peer-to-peer networks, but actually creating a radio station with low-end equipment. It's sort of very much in the spirit of some of your stuff, but focused on kids. And then certainly, you know, good academics working on the internet in Britain and across Europe. I can help you. I mean, you know, Steve Woolgar's at Oxford, and he's part of the 4S group, but we also have people outside the 4S group who are doing. I think it'd be great to have. I don't see, you know, it's interesting to see you here, but there's not a lot of academic presence here at all, and but it seems like almost I guess there have been things before that, but I mean, I think you know, maybe there's time to have a coherent, you know, sort of program